Episode 20, The Haunted Garage.
The heater hummed in the corner, more background than necessity. It wasn't freezing outside, just an October night, but the warmth kept the fog from climbing higher than ankle level. Cobwebs sagged from rafters under orange string lights, and a skeleton slouched beside the fridge like it had been partying too long. Frank was in his element. Hoodie under a cheap velvet cape, skeleton gloves, skull mask pushed up like a headband. He stood at his old DJ board, fingers rolling sliders like he was back at the bar 10 years ago. Wolf howls, thunder, chain drags, and heartbeats blended into something bigger than sound. Hudson, Ghostbuster, jumpsuit zipped and toy proton pack rattling on his back, aimed his chest-mounted phone rig. "Chat's about to go live," he said, grinning. Diane sat with her candy cauldron, witch hat, crooked, black gardening gloves, glowing faint under the orange lights. She puffed her cigarette and gave Frank a flat look. "This ain't Halloween. This is an electrical fire waiting to happen." "Circuits are split, surge protected," Frank said. "I know what I'm doing." Harry, Undertaker's coat and hat on, sanded a scrapboard at the bench. He didn't glance up. A Budweiser and mason jar sat within easy reach. Ricky strutted in with a half-buttoned flannel stapled with tufts of fur. "Top predator," he announced, flexing his bare chest. "You look like a raccoon that lost a bar fight," Diane muttered. "Predator?" Ricky repeated proudly. Cheryl Ann floated in as a ghost bride, veil slipping into her eyes. "Sorry," she squeaked as she bumped the cauldron. Doug, devil horns taped to his trucker cap, carried a giant fountain pop and a coil of extension cord. "Traffic control," he said, nodding at the driveway. Marty showed up in a mullet wig, cap, and fringed jacket. "I'm Morgan Wallen tonight," he said. Nobody argued. Larson snored by the heater, witch hat sliding off one ear. Frank clapped. "All right, Ricky scares, Diane rations candy, Doug controls traffic, Cheryl Ann floats and says nice things, Hudson streams, Marty, just be Morgan Wallen. Everybody ready?" Hudson's phone light blinked red. "Live in 3, 2, Frank hit a button. A door slammed, thunder cracked, and a whisper slithered out of the speakers. "Welcome." The haunted garage was open. The neighborhood lined up fast witches, superheroes, dinosaurs, and pirates. Parents hung back in hoodies and jackets, travel mugs steaming. The garage glowed like a carnival under fog and lasers. Hudson narrated into his phone. "Haunted Garage 2025, subscribe for chaos." Ricky jumped from behind a tombstone, howling. A pirate shrieked. Kids screamed and laughed, then screamed again when Ricky wagged his fur cuffs. "One Piece," Diane barked, slapping a teen's hand away from the candy bowl. She muttered about kids these days, but slid a second Snickers to a tiny princess when nobody watched. Harry sipped his beer, sanding without pause. A cluster of kids crept near. Without looking up, he muttered, "Don't touch the beer." They squealed and bolted. Doug waved minivans down the street like he was parking semis. "Exit that way," he said, steady as steel. Cheryl Ann whispered compliments to every costume. "Sorry. You look beautiful. Sorry." Marty leaned against the wall, fringed jacket shining, nodding like he was headlining. Frank timed it all. Growls, footsteps, and moans hitting exactly when he wanted them. The crowd gasped and laughed in waves. Then came the hot dog kid. Foam bun, mustard swirl, wide eyes. He stepped into the fog. Larson woke like someone had flipped a switch. He barked once, claws scrabbling, bandana flying, and barreled at the hot dog. The kid screamed and bolted. "Get him, Larson! Bite the mustard!" Ricky yelled. "Shut your mouth, Ricky!" Diane snapped. Hudson's phone shook. "Chet, Larson versus hot dog. This is history." Harry muttered dinners early, without missing a beat. Frank vaulted his cart. "Larson. Buddy. Not real food." The hot dog darted out the garage, kids chasing like it was a parade. Doug stepped aside and barked, "Clear," like a trucker guiding a wide load. A minute later, Larson waddled back, tongue lolling, plopped in front of the heater, and resumed snoring. The hot dog returned with his parents, gave the bulldog a shaky thumbs up, and Diane handed him 2 extra Reese's for surviving. "Best haunted house ever," Ricky shouted. "Best lawsuit waiting to happen," Diane muttered. The night rolled on, scares, laughs, candy, rationing, fog rolling, and Frank grinning as he ran the board like it was his second skin. By 9, the youngest kids were home, buckets heavy and bedtimes calling. Teenagers lingered, parents hung around the curb, but the line thinned. Frank dropped the moans, let the growls fade, and slid in a beat. Not spooky anymore, smooth, steady, begging people to move. After haunt, he said into the mic. The strobe softened, the fog dialed down. The garage door stayed wide open, music spilling into the street. The haunted house turned into a block party. Ricky was first on the floor, chest bare, howling at the beat before breaking into a wild dance. His fur cuffs shed fuzz like confetti. Cheryl Ann got pulled into a twirl, apologizing between giggles. Doug two-stepped with his fountain pop in hand, never spilling a drop. Marty posed against the fridge like Morgan Wallen on tour. Harry stayed at the bench, sipping and dropping dry critiques. "Too much spin," he said when Ricky tried a twirl and almost face-planted. Kids nearby laughed like he was the MC. Frank stepped away from the DJ board mid-song, threw his arms up, and started dancing himself. He moved with a beat, loose but sharp, like the bar parties he used to run. Hudson swung his camera toward him, laughing. "Look at Dad." The crowd whooped. Frank laughed too, pointing back at Hudson, then spinning to blend another track. Diane stayed in her chair, arms crossed, cigarette dangling. "This ain't music," she muttered. "You want music? Put on George Jones, Tammy Wynette. Something real." Frank teased her by sampling a George Jones vocal line over the beat. The crowd howled. Ricky almost cried laughing. Diane glared. Still ain't right. But closer. By the 3rd track, her foot tapped. By the 4th, she stubbed her cigarette, muttered, "You're all fools," and marched onto the floor. She danced stiff-shouldered at first, then looser when Frank dropped Johnny Cash into the mix. Everyone cheered, and she smirked through it like it wasn't happening. The garage pulsed. Neighbors danced. Kids tried TikTok moves. Ricky shirtless by then, Hudson filming everything. Frank switched between mixing and dancing, sweat shining under the lights. The night felt alive. Finally, Frank raised his hand and let the last track fade, music drifting into silence. The crowd clapped, cheered, and drifted home. Diane muttered about smoke in her hair. Ricky promised to help clean up tomorrow at noon. Doug gave a trucker's wave. Harry tipped his hat. Marty vanished, mullet wig crooked. The garage emptied. The fog settled. Larson snored. Frank stayed behind, beer in hand, sitting on the edge of the DJ cart. He looked around at the scuffed floor, the crooked sign Harry had carved, the faint glow of orange lights. Hudson walked back in, proton pack dangling, phone in hand. He stopped in front of Frank, grinning. "We hit 1 million, he said, turning the screen view count glowing with too many zeros. "Live tonight." Frank blinked, took a slow sip of beer. 1 million people watched this garage. He looked at the workbench, the fog machine, the dog. Watched us, Hudson said. And they loved it. Frank pulled his boy into a side hug, knuckled his hair. "Proud of you," he said. "Proud of us." Hudson smiled, eyes bright. Season 2's gonna be wild. Frank chuckled softly. If a frog had wings, he'd subscribe. "Dad," Hudson groaned, laughing anyway. The heater hummed. The fogger clicked off. Larson snored. The garage, for now, was just a garage again. One haunted garage, one block party reborn. 1 million people watching a family be a family. This was life at Frank's place.
Well, if you made it all the way to the end, either you really liked the story, or your phone fell asleep before you did. Either way, I appreciate you. For the full Frank's Place episodes, previews, and miniseries, follow us on Facebook. That's where all the chaos lies. And for the full audiobook versions, subscribe to the Frank's Place YouTube channel, where the stories run longer than Harry's one-liners. This is Life at Frank's Place.